At the Mercy of Faith by Samuel Lee Taylor. Fade in. Exterior, Texas, Bellstoner High School, morning. Several school buses are parked in front of the high school. On the lawn, a sign reads, Bellstoner High School, home of the Fighting Wildcats. Go Fight Win, class of 1988. Exterior, gymnasium, morning. Sounds of a basketball game. A ball bounces, sneakers screech against a slick floor. A ball swishes through a net.
Boom! That's for your face, Larry.
Other boys heckle and laugh at him. Interior, gymnasium, continuous. A group of black, white, and Hispanic boys play half-court basketball. Half of the boys wear gold jerseys reading Property of Bellstoner High PE Department. The others are shirtless. One of the boys on the shirtless team misses a jump shot. Larry, a tall boy with braided hair, grabs a rebound and slam dunks the ball through the hoop with a loud grunt, then mocks a Hispanic boy, 17.
That's for your whole team's face.
Several boys on the side cheer and high-five one another in celebration of the dunk. 17-year-old Marvin, 6'1", solid build, with the jerry-curled hair, sits in the bleachers behind them. Marvin's focus is on the girls' volleyball game in the other half of the court.
Hey, Marvin! Marvin!
Why are you bugging me, Sylvestus?
Sylvestus, 6'3", tan skin, wavy hair, muscular physique, despite his boxer's nose, and he is quite handsome.
I got next. Want to play?
Nah, man.
Standing next to Sylvestus is Billy, white boy, 5'9", with reddish blonde hair. Billy waves his hand in disgust towards Marvin.
Man, you know better than to be asking El Weirdo to play.
Stop your disrespect, Billy. Marvin is not a weirdo.
Yeah, whatever.
Marvin is transfixed by Susan, a beautiful girl with cocoa brown skin and curly shoulder-length hair. The ball is hit above Susan's outstretched arms, landing in the bleachers a few rows from Marvin. Susan retrieves the ball and notices Marvin eyeing her in a trance-like state. Marvin quickly looks away, embarrassed. But Susan's admiring eyes and pleasant smile indicate the infatuation is mutual. The sound of a whistle, followed by the coach's baritone voice, redirects her attention.
Y'all turn in your equipment and hit the showers.
Exterior, street, evening. Marvin walks from school with his books tucked under his arms. Sylvestus catches up to him.
Marvin, why you leave me, man? I thought you were hanging out after school.
I decided to keep my appointment.
Oh, hey, man.
Sylvestus playfully punches Marvin's shoulder.
I saw the way Susan was looking at you in PE. I'm telling you, Marvin, Susan likes you just as much as you like her. Our problem is tomorrow night. You gotta man up and ask Susan to be your date.
You know my life, Sylvestus. Our friendship and the crush I've had on Susan since 9th grade are the only reason I'm still...
Marvin chokes up. His eyes become watery. Marvin clears his throat. His voice is shaky.
If I ask Susan to the prom, she rejects me.
Sylvestus and Marvin stop at a traffic light. They hear Susan shouting from across the street.
Y'all leave me alone and stop harassing me.
Marvin and Sylvestus see two young men, early 20s, one sitting on a blue 10-speed bicycle, harassing Susan. The bicycle boy blocks Susan's path with his bike.
You loudmouth bitch. You know you want us. That's why your fine ass keeps parading by here every day.
Yeah,
He grabs Susan's butt cheek.
we can get this popping right now.
Susan slaps the boy's face.
Take your filthy hands off me.
A pained, disturbed expression distorts Marvin's face. But the distressed voice Marvin hears shouting is not Susan's. He hears a terrified pleas from a different girl, from a different time.
Don't let them do this to me, Marvin! Help me!
With a sour face, Marvin, for a second, looks into the heavens. Then, like a crazed maniac, he dashes across the street against the red light.
You take your hands off her!
A passing car slams its brakes to avoid hitting him. The panicked driver pounds his horn.
Wait for me, Marvin.
The two young men see Marvin wildly advancing. With a leaping football tackle, Marvin brutally slams young man number 2 to the ground and delivers savage blows.
You keep your hands off her.
Bicycle boy jumps off his bike and bear hugs Marvin from behind. Sylvestus, with his belt wrapped around his fist, attacks Bicycle boy. Using the belt's buckle as a weapon, Sylvestus pounds the boy's head.
Get off him.
Overwhelmed by Sylvestus and the super-aggressive Marvin, the two young men retreat, leaving the bicycle behind. Sylvestus helps Marvin up and brushes dirt off his back. Susan is unsettled by the disturbing episodes.
Damn, Marvin, you took on 2 older boys. I didn't know you could throw down like that.
Marvin sees the shock in Susan's wide-opened eyes.
I'm sorry for going off like that, Susan. But they were disrespecting you.
Thank you for defending my honor, Marvin Taylor.
You know me, Susan?
Yes.
Susan walks away. The joyful Marvin hyperventilates. Sylvestus wraps his arm around Marvin's shoulder.
You see, Marvin? Susan likes you.
Interior office building, evening. With a happy face and bright smile, Marvin hurries through the hallway, leaving his father, Mr. Taylor, early 40s, average height, thick mustache and afro, and his mother, Mrs. Taylor, early 40s, slender frame, lagging behind. Marvin enters an office. The door reads, Suite 324, Dr. Robert Jones, Ph.D., Clinical Psychology and Family Counseling Services. Interior, Dr. Jones's office, evening. Dr. Jones, mid-40s, medium afro, thick sideburns and glasses, sits behind his desk, reading over papers. Marvin bursts through the office door. He anxiously sits on the sofa. Dr. Jones is surprised.
Well, somebody's cheerful today.
I'm feeling better about life, Dr. Jones.
The curious therapist leans back in his chair.
What makes you feel this way, Marvin?
When I was walking home from school today, these two older boys were
Marvin's positive energy is suddenly zapped.
They were, harassed.
Marvin looks down to his feet and tenses up. Dr. Jones removes his glasses, raises up in his chair.
I'm here to help you, Marvin.
Marvin is fidgety. His voice quivers.
When I was, walking home, I was, thinking about how I've been coming to see you for 3 years, Dr. Jones. Talking about Miriam and God.
With a bitter face, hard breathing, and clenched jaw, Marvin pauses. He calms himself.
I'm turning 18 and graduating high school in 2 months, Dr. Jones. It's time for me to move on with my life. So, after today, I'm done with therapy.
Dr. Jones is caught off guard. He's pained by Marvin's abrupt decision. Exterior, Pacific Ocean, day. Super, 14 years later. A minister is heard concluding a wedding ceremony.
By the powers vested in me by the state of Hawaii, I pronounce Marvin Christopher Taylor and Susan Michelle Richardson husband and wife.
Exterior, Hawaii, afternoon. Tall palm trees, exotic flowers, and picturesque views glorify the beachfront property of a 4-star Hawaiian hotel. The calm, blue ocean water in the background highlights this blissful occasion. Exterior, beach, day. There are 20 guests, including parents, relatives, friends, and native islanders at the ceremony. Standing at the altar before the Hawaiian minister are Marvin and Susan. Marvin, 32, is dressed in a black tuxedo. Susan, 32, 5 months pregnant, wears a powder blue gown. Behind them are their children. Chris, 10 years old, wears a light blue tuxedo. Myesha, 14, and Michelle, 12, are dressed in grape gowns.
You may kiss your beautiful bride.
The newlyweds kiss. Exterior, Belstoner, day. Super, 2 days later. A middle-class residential neighborhood where the sounds of conversation and laughter sing joyously from inside the Taylor's modest home. Interior, Taylor home, dining room, morning. The Taylor family feasts on a big country breakfast of eggs, grits, sausage, potatoes, biscuits, milk, and orange juice. Everyone is eating and engaging in family time, except for Myesha, who appears to be lost in her thoughts.
Daddy, can I ask you, Mama, a personal question?
Our children can talk to their parents about anything at any time. Speak your mind, precious.
Did you and Mama get married because you love each other, or was it because of us being born?
Everybody stops eating. Chris and Michelle curiously listen.
Your father and I got married because we love each other deeply and we're committed to spending the rest of our lives together.
Susan affectionately rubs Myesha's hand on the table.
What's troubling your spirit, honey?
Why did y'all live together for 10 years before you finally got married?
I waited all these years to marry your mom because when we were in high school, I overheard your mom telling her friends that her dream place to get married and spend her honeymoon was in Hawaii. I made a vow that if me and the beautiful...
He gazes lovingly into Susan's eyes. She blushes.
Susan, Michelle Richardson ever got together, it wouldn't matter how much it would cost or how long it would take to save up the money. We would not get married until I could fulfill her Hawaiian dreams.
Myesha stands and applauds her father.
Yay for you, Daddy.
From another room, the phone rings.
I'll get it.
Michelle exits.
Daddy, I'm bored. Let's you and me go to the park and play some tackle football.
Yeah, Chris, that's a good idea. Mama, why don't we all go to the park, have a picnic, and play volleyball?
Family fun time sounds like a winner to me. What about it, sweetheart?
Marvin pats his long-faced, dejected son's shoulders.
There's 3 of them and 2 of us. We're outnumbered.
Myesha sticks her tongue out at Chris. Michelle returns.
Daddy, Betty says they're having a special program at her church tomorrow, and she's inviting me to come. Can I?
Marvin is agitated. He sternly looks at Michelle. His voice is slightly stressed and elevated.
Did you forget, Michelle, that we determined a long time ago we are not a church-going family?
Sorry, Daddy.
Exterior, Hoosier Park, volleyball court day. Susan referees the game. Marvin and Chris battle Myesha and Michelle. The ball zips back and forth over the net. Chris hits a shot over the net. Myesha leaps up for the ball and slams a powerful return. The ball slams into Chris's chest, knocking him to the ground. Michelle celebrates. Myesha taunts.
Is your chest okay, Chris?
Chris stands up.
Y'all come on then, let's play tackle football.
Girls 3, boys 0.
The game resumes. Michelle serves a shot that barely clears the net. Marvin charges for the ball.
Hit it, Dad, hit it!
Marvin stretches out in a diving effort, but instead of hitting the ball, he slams his head against the pole holding the net, jamming his head and neck backwards. Marvin lies face down on the ground, motionless. The family hurries to his aid.
Marvin.
They roll Marvin onto his back. Blood trickles from his nose and mouth. Susan lightly taps his face, trying to revive him.
Marvin, wake up, baby. Wake up!
Interior, Taylor home, girl's bedroom, night. Susan, in pajamas, checks on the children. She finds them soundly sleeping. Quietly, she closes the door. Interior, Taylor home, Chris's bedroom, night. Chris is partially uncovered, but resting peacefully. Susan tucks him in, kisses his forehead, then leaves the room. Interior, Taylor home, master bedroom, night. Susan enters the bedroom and is surprised by lit candles, a bottle of champagne chilling in a bucket of ice, and 2 champagne glasses on a bedside table. Marvin, also wearing pajamas and holding an ice pack against his head, walks up behind Susan. Kissing the top of her head, he hugs his blushing wife.
A kiss for your thoughts?
I'm just thinking about what a fortunate woman I am, being married to such a special man.
Susan faces Marvin. They passionately kiss. Marvin drops the ice pack, revealing the bruise on his forehead, a reddish-black lump the size of a 50-cent piece.
That bruise is getting worse, sweetheart. Maybe you should take off from work tomorrow and see a doctor.
Marvin holds Susan's hand and leads her to the bed.
The only thoughts I want on your mind are you and me celebrating our new adventures together, as husband and wife.
Susan sits on the bed. Marvin goes to the entertainment center and inserts a CD into the stereo. The song Truly by Lionel Richie vibes the room. Marvin reaches his hand out.
Can a husband have a lifetime dance with his most beautiful queen?
Susan stands up.
The queen honors her king's request.
The exterior, clear starry sky, night. The moon and stars brightly glow as Truly continues to play. But just over the horizon, as the song ends, thunder roars ferociously, and lightning bolts strike violently from invading black clouds. Interior, Taylor home, master bedroom, night. Susan sleeps soundly. Next to her in bed, Marvin sweats profusely as he violently twists and turns. His face is cringed in terror, and his eyeballs move at a frenzied pace underneath his closed eyelids. Marvin murmurs in his sleep.
Get your hands off her.
Flashback. Exterior, dirt road, night. On a dirt road parallel to some railroad tracks, a 17-year-old white boy stares into the darkness with panic-stricken eyes. The white boy stands over a kneeling, hysterical 14-year-old Marvin. Young Marvin's hands are clasped before his face. Tears stream down his cheeks.
They're hurting Miriam, God.
Interior, Taylor home, master bedroom, night, back to present. Marvin, with wide, terrified eyes, awakens. Heavily panting, he sits up on the side of the bed. Seeing that Susan is sleeping, Marvin props up his arms on his knees and buries his face inside his hands. Marvin grieves. Interior, exterior, Taylor home, master bedroom, night. Shifting through the bedroom window, the face of a full moon mysteriously glows a violet red as it is engulfed by a dark cloud. The sudden sound of a revved-up, sputtering engine of a vehicle, mingling with the creepy rousing of a loud, sinister laughter, is heard blasting in the air. Exterior, factory, day. It's cloudy and cold. Marvin wears a long black overcoat, red wool cap, and black gloves. He enters the security gate of Bellstoner Industries, addresses Jorge, an elderly Hispanic guard sitting inside the guard station, drinking coffee.
Good morning, Jorge.
No, Marvin, this is going to be a very sad and painful morning.
Why you say that, Jorge?
When I was making my rounds through the shop, Mr. Michaels was on the phone talking about the company's downsizing and laying off a bunch of workers, starting today.
What? I've only been working here for 10 months. Jorge, I'm gonna be the first one laid off. Damn! I gave up my 13 years of seniority working at my other job, just to come here and be jobless?
Interior factory, morning. The secretary awaits Marvin at a time card rack.
Before you clock in, Marvin, Mr. Michaels wants to see you in his office.
Marvin walks to the office and knocks on the door.
Come in.
Interior, Mr. Michaels' office, morning. Mr. Michaels, 40s, a tall, slender white man, sits behind the desk. He appears to be very stressed.
Good morning, Mr. Michaels.
Take a seat, Marvin.
Marvin sits. Mr. Michaels sighs sorrowful.
I was informed by the personnel office that over the past 4 months, several of our major contractors put a freeze on all their standing orders until further notice. As a result, the company is laying off 700 workers and reducing the work week to 3 days. For all others, as of now, Marvin, you're being sent home.
Marvin squirms in his seat and stumbles over his words.
Mr. Michaels, wow. My wife is 6 months pregnant. I have 3 children to feed. I need to be working.
Mr. Michaels is sympathetic.
I'm personally discussing this layoff with you, Marvin, because your positive energy and get the job done attitude were an asset to this company. I'm sorry for you and your family.
Exterior, Hoosier Park, day. Marvin parks his 2004 Taurus SE outside the park and enters. He passes the first bench he comes across, then sits on the next bench a few feet away. Propping his elbows on his knees and burying his face in his hands, Marvin ponders his predicament. His thoughts are abruptly disrupted by the sound of a strumming guitar. Marvin fiercely glares over the bench he passed. Then there he sees a mysterious man dressed in creepy clothing. The mysterious man wears a long black priest-like robe and dark sunglasses, despite it being a cloudy, gloomy day. Abruptly, the man starts to sing, out of tune, Turn, Turn, Turn by the Birds.
To everything, turn, turn, turn. There's a season, turn, turn, turn. And to a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die.
Marvin jumps up to leave. As he passes by, the mysterious man rumbles in a strange voice.
It's your season, sir.
What?
You have some spare change you can bless a tormented soul with?
Marvin gets a better look at him, and for a few seconds he's startled by the man's gruesome appearance. The mysterious man has a disfigured, leathery face, scarred with third-degree burns, and a hairless, burnt skull.
Man, I just lost my damn job.
Marvin walks away, then stops. Taking money from his pocket, he goes back to the mysterious man.
This $5 is to get something to eat. It's not for drugs or alcohol.
The mysterious man points upward.
May he bless you for your compassion.
Keep his blessings for yourself. I want nothing to do with that deceitful and merciless God.
Marvin briskly walks to his car. On the road adjacent to where he parked, Marvin hears the sputtering engine of a vehicle. The sputtering noise is eerily similar to the sound heard blistering in the air during the arrival of the violent storm clouds earlier. The vehicle races away from the park in Marvin's direction. Facing the vehicle, Marvin sees a driverless and freakishly wrecked and charred 1974 truck zooming past. Marvin is horrified. He tracks the speeding ghost truck until it mysteriously disappears.
What the hell?
Interior, Taylor home, living room, day. Marvin enters the house. Without removing his coat, wool cap, or gloves, he flops on the sofa. Susan enters.
Hey, sweetheart, you're home early.
I got laid off.
Laid off?
Susan drops in the seat beside her frustrated husband.
I just keep messing up your life, Susan. I got you pregnant and caused you to lose your full scholarship to med school. Now, 14 years later, you're still fighting to become a pediatrician, and you're married to a jobless man.
Susan wraps her arm around his slumped shoulders.
We're not going there and doing that, sweetheart.
Susan kisses Marvin's forehead.
I'll cancel my maternity leave and work up to my due date. The income will keep us stable and give you time to find another job.
Marvin straightens himself up.
For the peace of my conscience, I need to get you through college, baby. So, as we planned it,
He rubs his hand over Susan's stomach.
you're staying home until our son is a year old. Then, I take out the loan on our home, and instead of you going to college part-time and taking forever to graduate, you're going full-time.
Marvin kisses her.
First thing tomorrow morning, I'm going to Whittier Construction and begging them to rehire me.
Exterior, Whittier Construction Company, personnel, day. Light rain is wetting the city. Marvin, in black overcoat, black gloves, and red cap, wearily walks from the office of his former job. Exterior, Hanson's Poultry, day. Stressed, Marvin stands outside the factory, reading the sign posted on the window. No jobs available. Exterior, Peterson Candy Factory, day. Marvin drives up to the guard station in front of the factory. He speaks to a guard.
Are y'all hiring?
No, sir. Starting next week, the company is laying off 450 workers.
Exterior, wealthy neighborhood, morning. Marvin, wearing the same clothing, enters a wealthy neighborhood. He stops his car in front of a house and questions a man holding an umbrella, collecting his newspaper on the lawn. The man is dimly heard.
No, I don't.
Exterior, big brick house, morning. Marvin parks his car and walks up to the next home. He rings the doorbell. A silver-haired man, late 50s, answers through the screen.
Can I help you?
Good morning, sir. I'm Marvin Taylor. I'm one of the 700 workers laid off at Ballantyne Industry, and I'm looking for work. I'll work for whatever you're willing to pay, sir.
Taking notice of the falling rain, the man is impressed.
You're a family man, Mr. Taylor?
I have 3 wonderful children and an amazing wife who's expecting our 4th in 3 months.
Well, I got 2 big piles of firewood in my backyard that my wife keeps yanking my chain to bust up. I'll pay you $250 to chop the wood and store the pieces in the shed.
Exterior, big brick house, backyard, morning. Marvin removes the tarp covering one of the 2 large piles of wood. Axe in hand, he gets to work. Exterior, big brick house, backyard, day. Clearing rainwater from his face and eyes, Marvin finishes the first pile and starts on the second. The ground is littered with chopped wood. Exterior, big brick house, backyard, evening. Marvin piles the last of the split pieces in the backyard shed. The silver-haired man reappears.
I promised you $250, but since you've done a good job and saved my ears from more nagging, I'm going to pay you $300.
They shake hands.
Thank you very much, sir.
Exterior, unemployment office, early morning. The day is rainy and depressing. Marvin wears his overcoat, wool cap, and gloves. As he approaches the unemployment office, he sees the same creepy, mysterious man from the park sitting outside the building, strumming his guitar. The mysterious man wears the same dreary clothing and dark sunglasses. Marvin passes by the mysterious man, who again hustles him.
My soul suffers hellish pain, sir. Can you spare some change?
I already donated $5 to you. Now I need someone to spare me some change.
Marvin enters the building. Interior, unemployment office, early morning. The mysterious man follows Marvin into the busy office unnoticed and stands behind him at the receptionist's desk. The mysterious man is invisible to the receptionist, who gives out numbers and applications.
If you're applying for unemployment, take a number and answer all questions on the application. Your number will be called over the intercom.
A board security guard stands in a corner. Marvin sits in the full waiting area to fill out his application. The mysterious man sits next to him.
Excuse me for bothering you again, but we've never properly introduced ourselves. I'm John James.
He extends his hand. Marvin looks up, agitated.
You followed me in here?
He stares at John's hand for several seconds before shaking.
I'm Marvin.
At the contact of the hands touching, Marvin screams.
Ah!
He jumps up, dropping the application, pencil, and number on the floor. Marvin rips off his glove and wildly fans his hand in the air as if it were burned.
Damn, man! You're on fire!
The security guard, the receptionist, and everybody in the waiting area frowns and shakes their head in contempt at Marvin's clowning and talking to himself. They cannot see John James.
The place I come from is on fire, Mark.
Marvin sits down. He picks up all the dropped material off the floor. The others go back to their business.
What place is that?
He released us from hell to bring back to him your most precious possession.
With a contemptuous smirk, Marvin sneers at John.
Number 59, window 3.
Well, if that's your mission, John, you and your imaginary us can go back to hell and give him my last and most precious $5 I give you in the park.
Everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rains come down, the streams rose, the wind blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a mighty crash. If you can bridle up your attitude to heed the excruciating perils of my warning, Marvin, we can't purge you of what he craves, and my debt to you will be appeased.
Marvin is annoyed.
John, I'm straining real hard not to go off on you for following me in here and harassing me with craziness. I need you to give me some alone time to get this paperwork done, all right?
Marvin resumes writing. John leans closer to Marvin.
There's a time and a season for all things.
Looking up, Marvin finds himself face to face with John and the grotesqueness of John's scarred face. Marvin pulls back.
What the goddamn hell?
There's a time to be born and a time to die. Your time violently lurks.
Springing up from his seat, Marvin shouts out to the receptionist.
Miss, I need to hurry up and see a clerk.
You need to wait till your number comes up, sir, just like all the others in here are doing.
Marvin sneers roughly at the receptionist.
Number 60, window 5.
Security guard approaches Marvin.
Are you okay, sir?
I'm good. But your receptionist can use some intense therapy for her attitude problem.
Everybody's stressed and on edge, sir. Keep yourself calm. Your number will come up.
The security guard leaves. Marvin scouts the room, ignoring all the gawking people, but does not see another open seat. Sitting down, he meditates for several seconds.
Number 61, door 1. Number 62, window 4.
Marvin sighs.
I'm just here for my unemployment money, John. But it's obvious to me that you're a lonely, delusional man who gets off on freaking people out. So, until my number comes up, you can blabber on and on with your insanity.
If they knew I was sneaking around warning you, they would tell him, and my punishment would be even more unbearable. But I'm sorry for what happened, and I'm striving to save you, as you did me from that vicious terror the Lord of Damnation is set to execute upon you, and through you, unto your family.
Ain't nobody, real or hallucinated, hurting my family, John. Definitely not me.
Oh, brother Marvin Taylor.
Marvin flinches at the way John just addressed him.
While you still breathe your precious breath of life, I implore you to reclaim the righteousness path. Only then will your spirit be emancipated from the guilt and bitterness that condemns your soul.
Number 63, door 7.
Marvin checks his ticket and stands up.
I don't know how you know me by that name, but I'm done with your creepiness.
Marvin walks to the clerk's office. With a conflicted expression, he stares back at John. John is also watching Marvin. Marvin steps through a door.
In 3 months, Marvin, that hell you once fiercely denounced will ferociously devour your soul.
John disappears. Interior, clerk's office, day. Marvin enters, shakes hands with the Filipino mail clerk.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Taylor. Give me your application and take a seat. You're applying for unemployment benefits?
He hands his paperwork to the clerk and sits.
I am. But if I can find a job, I'd rather be working.
The clerk enters data into his computer.
Nobody's hiring, Mr. Taylor.
The clerk reads through the information on the screen.
Mr. Taylor, I see you worked for 13 years at Whittier Construction, but you quit and started working at Bellstoner Industries.
Bellstone Industry paid more money and had better medical coverage for my family.
The clerk leans back in his chair.
I cannot approve you for unemployment benefits.
Why not?
You were only employed at Bellstoner Industry for 10 months. To qualify for benefits, an employee must maintain steady employment for 1 full year at a specific company. And since you quit your job at Whittier Construction, your right to claim benefits from them was terminated. I'm sorry.
Marvin pops up from his seat.
Man, I didn't come here for your sympathy. I have a family to feed.
Exterior, unemployment office, day. Marvin maniacally storms out of the building and into the storming rain. He marches through the parking lot for his car.
I lost my job. I can't find work. Can't get unemployment.
Marvin fiercely looks up at the stormy heavens.
I didn't betray you. You betrayed us.
The sputtering vehicle suddenly accelerates and, blasting through the parking lot, it blows by several feet in front of Marvin. Marvin alertly jumps backward to avoid a close encounter. The vehicle turns out to be the same Ford ghost truck he saw at the park. Stunned and unnerved, Marvin watches the driverless truck racing away, only to disappear into thin air.
What the hell is going on with this Halloween ghost and goblin spookiness?
Exterior, Bowers Warehousing and Trucking Company, day. Rain continues storming down. Marvin, wearing his familiar clothing, stands miserably outside another company, staring at another not hiring sign posted in the company's window. Marvin walks back to his car and passes a 6'5" stout Asian man wearing a long tan overcoat, holding a bright gold-colored umbrella over his head. The umbrella appears to glow and gives a mystical contrast to the gloomy day.
God loves you. He knows you're suffering.
Marvin whirls to look at the Asian man, who continues walking down the sidewalk. Marvin is bitter.
You tell God to stop wasting his love on a man that has no forgiveness in his heart for him.
Walking swiftly to his car, Marvin snatches the car door open, and crashing into the seat, he grips the steering wheel with both hands. Marvin growls loudly. Breathing harshly, he closes his eyes to relax. A knock on the passenger side window distracts him.
Stop beating on my window.
An anxious black man motions for Marvin to roll his window down. Marvin glares at the man through the window.
I'm sorry for disturbing you, but I need help, brother. I lost my job at Peterson Candy, and now me and my family over there,
The man points across the street to a woman standing outside the entrance of a fast food restaurant. She has a sign around her neck and holds her umbrella over 3 boys and 1 girl standing with her. The youngest of the family is about 5 years old. The sign around the woman's neck reads, "Please help us. My husband lost his job. We have 4 children to feed."
We're forced to be out here in this weather hustling to survive. Whatever you can spare is a blessing.
Marvin is humbled. He pulls out the ashtray filled with change. Letting down the window, Marvin pours the coins into the man's hands.
This is all I got.
Exterior Gibson's Ranch, day. The rain has stopped, but the gray, gloomy day remains cold and depressing. Driving through the open gateway of Gibson's Ranch, Marvin rolls up to the 2-level brick home. He parks, exits his car, and rings the doorbell. A middle-aged black woman, wearing denim jeans and a blue western shirt, answers.
Yes?
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Marvin Taylor. I'm desperately looking for any kind of work I can get to feed my family.
Series of shots. Inside a horse stable, wearing cap and gloves, Marvin feeds, bathes, and brushes the fur of 3 horses and a pony. Later into the day, he shovels up manure and hoses down the stable floor. On his second day of work, at the same ranch and wearing the same clothing, Marvin vacuums and cleans the living room. In the kitchen, he cleans the stove, the refrigerator, and he mops the kitchen floor. Inside the bathroom, Marvin cleans the shower tiles, the shower door, and lastly, he cleans the toilet. Interior supermarket, morning. With Chris and Michelle pushing shopping carts filled with groceries, Marvin, wearing his signature attire, heads to the checkout register with his family. Exterior, downtown Bellstonner, night. Downtown glitters with decorative Christmas ornaments, lively window displays, and falling snow. Cars roam up and down the busy streets. Parents, some with their children, are out doing last-minute shopping. In a turbulent state of mind, Marvin strolls in the snowy weather. His somber soul is not uplifted by the jolly sound of Winter Wonderland serenading the shoppers. Sprouting 3 weeks of a kinky, uncombed beard, Marvin peers at the store window with merry parents and gleeful children. Marvin is surprised by a familiar voice behind him.
Trust in God. You shall be free.
Marvin spins around. He sees the Asian man with his golden umbrella walking past him.
You again?
The Asian man continues walking the sidewalk.
I've been there and done that with God. Instead of being free, my life was booby-trapped with pain, misery, and 3 years of therapy because of his betrayal.
Marvin angrily walks in the opposite direction. Behind him, unseen by Marvin, the Asian man disappears. Interior, Taylor home, living room, morning. Marvin, in pajamas and a red cap, sits alone in the living room, staring miserably at the wall. The phone on the end of the table rings. After the 3rd ring, he grabs it.
Hello?
With a hard, frustrated sigh, Marvin responds with heat.
Mr. Rogers, y'all need to stop calling and harassing me for money. For the 100th time, you know that me and about 1,000 other workers lost our jobs, and nobody is hiring.
Marvin listens and roughly rubs his hand over his nappy hair.
Mr. Rogers, please, before you hijack our home, I ask you to consider what a reliable customer I've been over the past 10 years of doing business with your bank. When I was working, all my loans were paid, on time, every time. Where's your fucking sympathy, Mr. Rogers?
Marvin slams down the receiver and storms into the kitchen, fuming.
Damn heartless people.
Interior, Taylor home, kitchen, morning. Marvin gets a glass from the cabinet and turns on the sink's water faucet. No water comes out. He roughly turns the faucet again and again. The water is off. Fiercely growling, Marvin draws his arm back to slam the glass into the wall, then restrains himself. Heavily breathing, he sets the glass on the counter. The doorbell rings.
Who the hell is coming to my home this early in the morning?
Interior, Taylor home, living room, morning. Storming to the door, he peeps through the peephole. Marvin jerks the door open. A gas man, Hispanic, wearing a Bellstoner Gas Company uniform, stands outside.
Holy fuck. This is the worst winter we've ever had. And the Heartless Gas Company is here to turn our damn gas off?
The gas man is startled by Marvin's aggression. His voice is nervous.
Sir, Bellstoner Gas is conducting courtesy visits to our most reliable customers delinquent on their bill. We're offering you the chance to pay half the $589 you owe, and your service will not be interrupted.
Susan, dressed in her robe, enters the living room. From behind Marvin, she intensely monitors her troubled husband.
I don't have a damn job to pay y'all half of nothing.
Marvin takes a deep breath, a long cleansing exhale, then attempts to reason.
Our water is already off. We're losing our home. My wife is pregnant. I have 3 children in here.
I'm sorry, sir, but you have 2 weeks to pay the $295.
Fuck all y'all heartless, unsympathetic fucks.
Marvin slams the door. Susan confronts him.
Marvin, calm down with your swearing. Our children and the whole neighborhood can hear you.
She inhales, exhales, then hugs him.
It's no shame in asking my parents for help, baby.
Marvin pulls away from Susan's embrace.
Don't lose faith in me, Susan. I can save my family.
Susan, watching Marvin storm into the bedroom, frowns in disappointment at his stubborn pride. Chris enters the living room.
Mama, Daddy with his hairy, scary face is gone. Damn fucking cuckoo. Cuckoo.
Chris, don't you ever let me hear you speaking or repeating inappropriate language like that again. You understand me, Chris?
Sorry, Mama.
Interior, Taylor home, kitchen, morning. Susan is inside the kitchen preparing school lunches for the children. There's a honk and the sound of a bus outside.
Michelle, your bus is here.
Michelle sadly enters the kitchen.
Mama, can I just stay home until things get better around here?
The bus honks again. Susan gives Michelle her lunch bag and hugs her.
Honey, I know things are tough right now, but your father is out there fighting day and night for us. You need to be strong and supportive. Okay, precious?
Exterior street, morning. Michelle walks gingerly through the snow to the bus and hesitantly steps inside. Interior, school bus, moving, morning. The children, with laundry pins fastened to their noses, bully Michelle. None will allow her to sit with them. Some lift their feet onto their seats, others use their books. A fat boy instructs Michelle.
You sit in the back.
Michelle moves to the back seat and discovers a stuffed toy skunk. The children cruelly laugh.
You smell funky, Michelle. Take a bath.
Screaming hysterically, Michelle runs to the driver.
Stop the bus! I want to get off!
Michelle reaches for the bus door lever and pulls the door open. The bus driver is horrified.
Michelle, what are you doing?
I want to get off!
The bus driver immediately maneuvers to the side of the road. Michelle jumps out of the bus and runs down the roadside, crying.
Michelle, you need to get back on this bus.
Interior, Taylor home, living room, night. A very stressed and worried Susan sits on the sofa with Myesha and Chris. They are covered with a blanket. The TV is on.
Why is it so cold in here, Mama? And when are we eating? I'm hungry.
Stop bothering Mama, Chris. Her gas is off.
Susan struggles to stand up from her seat.
I'll get us another blanket.
Interior, Taylor home, hallway, night. Walking to the hallway closet, Susan is overcome with grief. She bows her head against the closet door. Hearing sobbing coming from inside the girl's bedroom, she marshals her emotion and goes in. Interior, Taylor home, girl's bedroom, night. Michelle huddles underneath her bedclothes, crying. Susan sits down at the edge of the bed.
I've been waiting for you to come and talk to me about what happened on the bus this morning. Are you ready to talk?
Michelle sits up in her bed. She wipes her tears.
Yes.
Your principal called. She told me about the dangerous maneuver you made on your bus this morning. She also informed me of the horrible bullying you have been tormented by at your school.
Susan hugs Michelle.
Why didn't you tell me what was happening at your school, honey?
Michelle bursts into tears.
I was trying to be strong, Mama.
Susan bows her tearful face against Michelle's head and slightly squeezes her.
Did you go tell Grandma and Grandpa about our situation?
Michelle sniffles.
Daddy needs help, and I know Grandma and Grandpa will help him.
Susan sighs and appears relieved. She kisses Michelle's forehead.
I love you so much, Michelle. I'm proud of you for being strong and making the stand your mother has failed to make for her children.
Susan hears the front living room door open and close and immediately leaves the bedroom. Interior, Taylor home, living room, night. Marvin enters. Snowflakes stick to his cap, coat, and bushy beard. He appears volatile. Susan confronts Marvin.
Sweetheart, I know you're out there fighting. I see the strain. But we're out of time, baby. Our children are suffering.
I just got in the house, Susan.
Marvin flops down on the sofa.
Can I relax and clear my head before you attack me with problems I'm not ready to hear?
Marvin, Michelle is being bullied at school because we can't take a bath. I can't cook us dinner, and this house feels like an icebox because the gas is off. We got to make a decision.
Marvin springs up from the sofa and aggressively gets in Susan's face.
Have you given up on me, Susan? And to justify your thoughts of betraying our vows in marriage?
Susan slaps Marvin. Marvin slaps his pregnant wife. Michelle enters the room and stands next to Chris and Myesha. The children are traumatized by their parents' violent behaviors.
Daddy, Mama, y'all stop fighting!
Susan drops to her knees, holding her stomach in pain. With shocked eyes, she cries out.
Marvin!
Myesha runs to the aid of her stricken mother, hugging her.
Mama, you alright, Mama? You alright?
Marvin snaps back to his senses and is horrified at the trauma he's inflicted upon his wife and the pain haunting his children's faces. Myesha attacks her father.
I hate you, Daddy. You hurt Mama. You hurt Mama.
Marvin is paralyzed with regret as Myesha pounds his chest. Chris, with tears streaming down his face, fiercely rebukes his father.
You a liar, Daddy. You said a real man never fights a woman, no matter what.
Marvin, panting roughly, rushes out the front door. Exterior, Taylor house, night. Marvin falls to his knees outside the door and violently throws up and miserably weeps.
I hurt my family.
Marvin anxiously hurries to his car parked in the driveway. He drives away. Interior, Taylor home, living room, night. Susan, supported by her children, struggles to the sofa. Myesha sits on one side of Susan and Michelle sits on the other. They bow their heads to their mother's shoulders and sob. Chris angrily breathes and roughly wipes away tears in his eyes. He balls his hand into a tight fist.
I'm sorry for not protecting you, Mama. If I were bigger, I would have...
Don't you dare complete that thought, Chris.
But Mama, that time Daddy saw me fighting Myesha, he told me a real man never fights a woman. And you're pregnant, Mama.
Tears stream down Chris's cheeks. Calming her spirit, Susan pats on the sofa.
Sit with me, Chris.
Myesha slides over. Chris sits next to his mother. Susan hugs and kisses the top of his head.
I understand your disappointment in your father, but what just happened is not a green light for you or any of our children to be calling your father a liar and disrespecting him.
Susan hugs her children.
We are a strong family and this madness ain't breaking us.
The doorbell rings.
Who is it?
It's your mother.
Susan wipes her eyes and relaxes her spirit. This calms the children.
We're not talking to Grandma about this, okay?
Chris answers the door. Grandma, late 50s, white-haired, professional, enters. She hugs and kisses Chris.
Hi, Grandma.
Hello, Chris.
Myesha and Michelle greet Grandma with a big hug.
Hi, Grandma.
Grandma, you bring something to eat?
Frowning, Grandma hugs the children. The children sob.
Lordy, lordy, lordy. My poor babies.
Grandma looks at Susan. Susan, with tears streaming down her cheeks, sits rubbing her stomach.
Sweethearts, Grandma needs y'all to go in your bedroom so she can have a serious talk with her daughter. And y'all can stop your worrying. Grandma's here now.
The children go to their rooms. Grandma sits on the sofa. Susan leans her head against her mother's bosom and weeps.
Honey, I know you love Marvin dearly, and you'll swim with him through hell and volcanic lava. And that's okay. Marvin is a good man, but condemning my grandchildren to suffer in these impoverished conditions is way past acceptable, baby girl.
Grandma, wiping her eyes, rests her head against Susan's head.
And as your mother, I'm removing my pregnant daughter and her grandchildren out of this toxic energy. Marvin knows our address.
Exterior, roadside, night. Marvin sits in his car, parked on a roadside, grieving. Interior, Grandma's house, girl's bedroom, night. Inside the dark upstairs bedroom, Myesha sits up in bed with her head bowed to her knees, sobbing. Michelle, tears streaming down from her eyes, stands by the bedroom window, watching the falling snow. Interior, Grandma's house, Chris's bedroom, night. Chris, crying in bed, mutters.
How could you hit Mama, Daddy?
Exterior, roadside, night. Trembling in his freezing car, Marvin recalls John's prophetic warning.
I'm sorry for what happened, and I'm striving to save you, as you did me, from that vicious terror. The Lord of damnation is set to execute upon you, and through you unto your family.
Who the fuck are you, John?
Interior, Taylor home, bedroom, early morning. Marvin enters the bedroom.
Susan?
Marvin sees the letter on top of the unslept-in bed. He sits bedside, reads the letter.
Your family is staying with my parents until our baby is born. I have not given up on you, and I have not betrayed our vows, Marvin. We were selfishly constraining our children in unhealthy conditions, and if I miscarried our baby from the distressing actions neither of us meant, our family would never survive that unforgivable crime.
Marvin drops the letter and sorrowfully grieves. Exterior, Hoosier Park, morning. Marvin, wearing the same clothing and sporting his wild beard, stands by the bench where he first met John. Looking over the vacant park, he moves on. Exterior, unemployment office, midday. Marvin drives up to the unemployment office. Parking his car and surveying the area, he sees 3 homeless men huddled around a barrel fire. Marvin walks over to the men. A big-nosed man with a Don King-style electrified hair, a skinny man with decaying teeth, 3 missing in the front, and a nappy-bearded man with a patch over his left eye stand around a barrel of fire. They share a bottle of hard liquor amongst themselves. Marvin's unkempt appearance blends him right in with the homeless men. He stretches his hand over the fire. The men frown coldly at the intrusive Marvin.
How y'all doing?
How the hell you think we're doing? It's cold as fuck out here.
Yeah, I'm looking for the white man I met hustling outside the unemployment office a few weeks ago. He's about 6 feet tall with burn scars over his face and head. He said his name was John James.
The men suddenly explode with comical laughter and coughing.
What's so funny?
You is!
The nappy-bearded man takes a gulp of the liquor and, laughing, coughing, he passes the bottle to the laughing skinny man. Marvin is bemused by their antics.
If y'all know John, can you tell me where I can find him?
You can find John James dead and buried in the 43rd Street Cemetery.
The skinny man takes a chug and passes liquor to the big-nosed man.
The shit that's got you fucked up is a hell of a lot stronger than this cheap shit that fucked our lives up.
The skinny man and nappy-bearded laughs hard. The big-nosed man finishes off the hard liquor and tosses the bottle to the ground. He makes a hard belch and wipes his mouth.
Excuse me. Somebody put a hex over John's life and his madness drove him to commit suicide a year ago.
How could John have committed suicide a year ago, when I've seen and talked to him twice in the past 2 months?
The men continue laughing.
If you've been seeing and talking to John James, I want a whole barrel of that good shit that's got you tripping out. My rich Uncle Charlie died 8 years ago. I want to see him ask him why he left me out of his will.
And I'll take 4 barrels, please. 3 for me and 1 for my wife. Maybe it can bring our marriage back to life. Our shit's been stinking. 10 years and counting.
They laugh hysterically. Marvin is disgusted.
Can you calm down long enough to direct me to his wife or relatives?
Exterior, trailer park community, evening. Marvin knocks on a trailer door. Mrs. James, tired posture, salt and pepper hair, answers. Seeing Marvin's derelict appearance, she angrily frowns.
What do you want on my property, mister?
Marvin is unnerved by her unwelcoming attitude.
I'm a friend of John. I haven't seen him around town for several weeks now, so I came to see if he's still alive.
Marvin chuckles nervously.
John's been dead a hell of a lot longer than several weeks, mister.
Are you for sure he's dead, Mrs. James? Were you at his funeral and witnessed him being buried in the ground?
Mister, whatever drugs you're on that compelled you to come on my property asking me these sick questions better hurry up and compel you and your demons to get off my property now.
Mrs. James attempts to slam the door. Marvin anxiously pushes his shoulder against the door, keeping it open.
Don't close the door, Mrs. James. I'm trying to tell you. John is alive. I just saw him a month ago, sitting outside the unemployment office. He was playing a guitar, asking for money and mumbling about his soul suffering hellish pain.
Mrs. James fiercely jerks the door wide open. Marvin falls awkwardly across the threshold. From the waist up, His body lies inside the trailer. Mrs. James glares down at him.
I'm getting my gun.
Marvin is embarrassed as he clambers to stand up.
If you're still on my property when I get back, my bullets are gonna let your soul experience what suffering hellish pain truly feels like.
She disappears into the trailer. Marvin wisely flees. Interior, Belstoner County Welfare Office evening. Marvin, dressed as always, sits alone at a desk, struggling with his pride at having sunk so low as welfare. A Hispanic female clerk, papers in hand, enters. She is uneasy at Marvin's odor, but keeps her composure.
Your application was approved, Mr. Taylor. You'll receive bi-weekly checks for $522.86. You'll get an additional $422 in food stamps monthly.
Is that all we get for a family of 5?
Be thankful for the help you're receiving, Mr. Taylor.
Interior, Business District evening. Marvin walks the snowy sidewalk, casing the shops and businesses. He stops in front of a jewelry store, looks inside for several seconds, then moves on. Approaching a bank, Marvin again stops and peers inside. From the reflection of the bank's window, he sees Jindal's convenience store across the street. Crossing over, Marvin enters. Interior, Jindal's convenience store, evening. Marvin moves from front to back, suspiciously inspecting walls and ceilings. He locates a surveillance camera mounted on the back wall. Thinks for several seconds. He also sees a second camera mounted on the far side wall, facing the entrance door. Mr. Jindal, wearing a turban around his head, monitors Marvin's suspicious behavior.
Can I help you find something?
No.
Marvin hurries out. Exterior, 43rd Street Cemetery, late evening. Marvin plods through the cemetery, inspecting tombstones. He becomes dazed and confused to see a tombstone. John James, 1967 to 2001. May his soul now rest in peace.
John, I'm not submitting to any of the paranormal creepiness you've been performing in Belstoner.
Marvin breathes angrily, takes a long moment to look over the cemetery.
But if by some weird chance this creepiness is real, it's time for me to reveal the treacherous tale of why I flushed my spirit of all that God, Son of God, rah-rah.
Marvin sits graveside.
When I was 10 years old, my grandfather, who was a very pious and honorable man, was dying from kidney failure. Before he passed on,
Flashback. Interior, Grandpa's bedroom, evening. Young Marvin, 10, sits at the bedside of a sick old man. The man gives young Marvin a little red Bible.
he gave me a little red Bible and told me it contains God's divine words for wisdom, understanding, hope, forgiveness, and salvation. He said that if I shape my mind and spirit to the righteousness of God's path, my obedience would be rewarded with a glorious afterlife of eternal peace and hallelujah celebrations in God's heavenly paradise.
Exterior, 43rd Cemetery, late evening, back to present.
After Grandpa died, I wasted the next 3 years of my teenage life reading, meditating, and focusing my every thought on the teachings and philosophies of that little red Bible.
Marvin is bitterly shaken by the recall of his repressed pains. He pauses to refocus.
At the age of 14, I was invited to preach at our affiliate all-white church.
Flashback. Exterior, church. Parking lot, Sunday, late evening. Exiting a 1984 Buick Electra sedan are young Marvin, 14, his parents, Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Taylor, and a girl, Miriam, Marvin's twin. Exterior, Pop's homemade donuts, rolls and coffee shop, late evening. On the opposite side of the street, and half a block down from the church, 3 men stand outside Pop's, eating donuts and passing around a 40-ounce bottle of liquor. One is a tall man, muscular body and bald head, late 30s. He wears a red flannel shirt and blue denim overalls. Next to him, a chubby boy, 20, black, thick afro, and a white boy, 17. The chubby boy notices young Marvin, his parents, and Miriam walking from the parking lot to the church.
What them blacks doing at that white church?
The tall man and the white boy look to the church. The tall man eyes Miriam.
Look at that fine as sweet strawberry wine, baby doll.
Young Marvin, his parents, and Miriam enter the church. Interior, church, late evening. The church seats about 300 people and is largely filled by a white audience. In the back sits a group of 30 blacks. Young Marvin sits between 2 white ministers at the front. With his little red Bible in hand, Marvin is confident. Marvin's parents and Miriam gaze proudly at young Marvin. One of the ministers steps to the podium.
My Christian family, tonight history is being made at our Main Street Church. We have a member of the Grand Street Church visiting us tonight. This marks the first time our black family is congregated with us, as well as the first time a black minister will speak from our pulpit. After another verse of the hymn, the next voice heard will be that of Brother Marvin Taylor, a young man devoted to the teachings and living of God's sacred words.
The congregation sings. Young Marvin stands at the podium. The singing ceases.
Amen. Praise the Lord. Sisters and brothers, I feel so blessed and energized by God's Holy Spirit, I'm ready to preach tonight. Can I preach, sisters and brothers?
Preach,
Brother
Brother
Taylor,
Taylor,
Preach. I want to tell you tonight that I love the Lord, and you want to know why, church?
Why?
Because our Almighty God, high in the heavens above, is a just and merciful Father who answers the prayers of his believers and delivers our souls from the pain of the enemy. Our Creator loves us so truly, he sacrificed the life of his own Son so that you, me, and all who worship him in spirit and in truth shall not perish in that vicious lake of fire, but will live a life of splendor in God's heavenly paradise.
Animated in the Spirit, young Marvin walks out of the pulpit and walks among the members while preaching.
Amen.
Let God talk, young man.
A long-haired, tough-looking teenage white boy slouching in his seat seems disinterested.
Therefore, church, whenever the trials and tribulations of life attack my spirit with tears of rage, whenever the claws of hell grab hold of me and tries to bully me into submission, you know what I do, church?
What do you
What do you do?
Young Marvin stops in front of the teenage white boy and drops to his knees.
I drop down on my knees and shout, "Hallelujah! Praise the Lord! Like a strong tree planted by troubled waters, I shall not be moved."
The surprised boy sits up straight in his seat and provides Marvin his absolute attention.
Praise God. Praise our Heavenly Father.
Miriam is captivated and inspired by the sermon. Sitting on the last row in the church, the 3 rows behind Miriam, the tall man, the chubby boy, and the white boy are present. The 2 boys' attention is on the young Marvin and his inspirational message. The tall man is fixated on Miriam. He ogles her lustfully as she leaves her seat and walks to the pulpit. Interior church later. The immersion pool in front of the altar has been opened. 2 ministers stand in waist-deep water. Miriam, robed in white, is immersed in the water. To the side, the teenage white boy, who appeared disinterested earlier, awaits his turn.
Being the first black minister to preach at the Main Street Church became the greatest blessing of my young life. When my twin sister, Miriam, and a white boy got baptized.
The teenage white boy's parents shake young Marvin's hand.
Thank you for your anointed message. Our son had involved himself with the wrong group of people and was heading straight for hell's fire. But tonight he is a Christian.
The baptized and newly converted teenage white boy, standing with his parents, also shakes young Marvin's hand.
Thanks for waking me up.
Father hands young Marvin a check.
In support of your continued studies of the Holy Scriptures, we donate to you a faith offering of $100.
Thank you, sir, but I cannot accept it. I'm just a humble servant delivering God's message of love, hope, and salvation. He will be the one to reward my obedience.
Exterior, 43rd Street Cemetery. Lady, back to present. Marvin leans against the tombstone.
I was on such a spiritual high that night, John. I couldn't relax. So my parents let me walk home to calm down. But Miriam wanted to walk with me.
Flashback. Exterior, dirt road, night. Young Marvin and Miriam walk the side of a dirt road, away from the church. Behind them, people are leaving the building, honking their horns as they drive past. One vehicle stops. It is their parents.
Marvin, there were so many people inspired by your powerful sermon. Your mom and I never got our turn to tell you how proud you made us feel.
Grandpa would have been proud of you too, Marvin.
Their parents drive away. Young Marvin hugs Miriam.
Miriam, when I saw you walk into the podium to invite God into your heart, my spirit felt so much joy. I couldn't stop myself from shouting, "Hallelujah! Praise the Lord!"
I can feel God's presence all around me.
Exterior, narrow dirt road, moments later. The dirt road now runs parallel to the railroad tracks. As young Marvin and Miriam walk, they suddenly hear wolf whistles, howling, and mischievous laughter from behind.
Wait for us, you fine, sexy thing. We want to invite you to the party we're having tonight.
Looking behind, they see three males. Young Marvin grabs Miriam's hand and runs.
Come on.
The men chase.
Don't run away, baby doll. I promise you a banging good time tonight.
The tall man laughs insanely. Young Marvin abruptly stops.
What are we running for? God will protect us from those devils. You demons of hell better leave us alone before God sends down an army of his angels to chop y'all up into million pieces.
God ain't sending angels to chop nobody up, boy.
The tall man plants his forearm into the white belly's chest to block him.
This party is for black men only. You keep him occupied. Choo-choo, it's time to party.
The tall man grabs Miriam from behind and drags her to the wooded area on the side of the road.
Stop! Y'all leave me alone! Get your hands off me! Help me, Marvin!
Shut your loud-ass mouth, girl.
The white boy struggles to hold the hysterical young Marvin.
Y'all leave my sister alone. Get your hands off her.
Don't let them do this to me, Marvin! Help me!
I told you to shut the fuck up.
Dropping to his knees, hands clasped, young Marvin prays.
They're hurting Miriam, God. Come save her, God. Save my sister.
Miriam struggles to breathe.
Marvin, help!
Oh, damn, man. Stop choking her. She can't breathe.
I believe in you, Heavenly Father. They're hurting Miriam. Please, God. Send your angels to save my sister.
The white boy looks up to the heavens. His face becomes distorted with suspense.
Fuck, man. What's that creepy shit going on with the moon?
The white boy is shocked. His mouth drops open.
And why is that weird light falling down from the sky?
The chubby boy looks up. He too is weirded out.
Oh, shit. I think his angel's coming. I'm getting the fuck out of here.
The chubby boy races off.
Me too.
He also runs away. The tall man is furious.
You punk-ass bitches are supposed to be watching my back.
The tall man is not cognizant of any heavenly mystery. Arrogantly zipping his pants, he taunts the traumatized young Marvin.
All that begging, no angels, no God.
The tall man walks away, callously laughing. Miriam's body lies next to the small bush. Young Marvin bitterly weeps as he crawls to her lifeless corpse.
Miriam? Miriam?
With the shreds of her clothes, young Marvin covers Miriam's exposed skin. He presses her head firmly against his chest.
I'm sorry, Miriam. I'm sorry for not protecting you.
From above them, a bright golden light descending from the heavens hovers over them. The light, invisible to young Marvin, configures into a golden crystallized image of an angel. Miriam's body brightly glows from the anointing of the holy entity. Young Marvin's eyes cannot see the phenomenon. He insanely shouts into the heavens.
Why didn't you save Miriam?
Young Marvin pulls the little red Bible from his shirt pocket and violently hurls it away.
I begged you to save Miriam, but you just sat on your high and mighty throne, watching them rape and murder my 14-year-old sister.
The golden light fades out and Miriam's body no longer glows. Exterior, 43rd Street Cemetery, night, back to present. Marvin goes silent. Tears stream down his face. Snowflakes fall over his body. He roughly wipes his eyes.
The memories that keep haunting me the most about that night, John. I was so preoccupied with being down on my knees begging. I couldn't give the police an accurate description of the murdering rapists who violated Miriam. They were never captured and punished. But he condemned me to be forever tormented by the shame of not fighting like a maniac to save my sister.
With the evening dawning and the darkness of night invading the cemetery, Marvin stands up to go. But blurring in the air, Marvin hears the creepy sound of loud, sinister laughter echoing from the ghastly revving of that sputtering 1970 truck. Marvin's freaked out. He fearfully scans the graveyard for the source of the spine-chilling terror. Then he hears a hard, menacing voice.
Hell is coming to get you, brother, Marvin Taylor.
The laughter and the revving continue. Marvin, seriously frightened, scampers out of the cemetery.
This ghost shit can't be real.
Interior, Taylor home, living room, night. Marvin sits in the dark living room, lit only by 2 flickering candles, dressed in his coat, cap, and gloves. With a stressed face and teary eyes, he sorrowfully stares at their family portrait, honoring the living room wall.
I'm losing my damn mind, Susan. I'm hurting you and terrifying our children. I'm seeing a ghost truck and hearing demonic voices. I'm struggling with Miriam again.
Interior, Grandma's house, living room, night. Susan, Chris, Michelle, Grandma, and Susan's father, all holding hands, kneel in a prayerful circle in the living room floor. Susan's father, 60s, distinguished man with a round face, husky body, and silvery gray hair, leads the family in their fervent and emotional prayers. Interior, Taylor home, living room, night. Frozen in sorrowful meditation, staring at the portrait, Marvin pops up from the sofa.
I gotta fight for my family.
Grabbing a candle holder, Marvin marches out. Interior, Taylor home, bedroom, night. Setting the candle atop the dresser, he pulls the cap off his head and yanks open a drawer. He takes out a set of keys and a black ski cap. Marvin's reflection in the mirror reveals the nappy facial hairs distorting his appearance. The bruise he sustained during the volleyball game has doubled in size. It mars the whole left side of his face, from forehead to temple, an inflamed reddish-black mess. Marvin slides out another drawer and retrieves a tube of ointment. He spreads gel over the bruise. His face contorts with pain. He covers his head with a black ski cap, and grabbing the candle, he rushes out. Interior, Taylor home, garage, night. Unlocking the cabinet mounted on the wall, he lifts out a small box. Unlocking the box, Marvin removes a gun. Exterior, bus stop, night. The snow continues to blow. Over a foot of snow covers the ground. Marvin wears the same clothing, except for the black ski cap. The bus arrives. Marvin enters, stands on the steps.
Hey man, I don't have any money, but I need to get to Fuller Street. It's an emergency.
You're my one good deed for the night.
Thank you.
Interior, bus, night. 8 passengers ride the bus. Marvin walks to an empty seat in the middle. He passes 3 teenage girls engaged in a giggly conversation. Getting an offending whiff of Marvin's odor, the girls frown and fan their noses. The bus resumes its route. But after a short distance, rapidly approaching sirens force the driver to pull over. 3 police cars zoom past. 2 elderly black women sit across from Marvin and discuss the dramatic scene.
They're in a big rush to get somewhere. Honey, we got so many people losing their jobs around here. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if some desperate soul was about to lose his life for robbing a store or something.
The wailing sirens and very on-point gossip between the 2 women has made Marvin uncomfortable. Glaring at them, Marvin anxiously pulls the bus cord. One of the women eyes him, gives him a lecture.
Young man, I don't know you or what your struggles are, but it's been put in my spirit to tell you. Sometimes the misfortunes of life can be so demoralizing, it disturbs your spirit with paranoid thoughts, and you find yourself wallowing around in filthy acts. In my 71 years of living, I have come to the understanding that no matter how heavy the burdens or ferocious the forces pushing against you, you gotta keep on believing in what's right. And in the end, when all things have been said and done, righteousness will always prevail.
The bus pulls over. Exiting the bus, Marvin wryly responds.
Thank you for your moral pep talk. But the source instigating all of my misfortunes is again crucifying my peace. Now I'm a man, and I'm not dropping down on my knees.
Exterior street, night. The bus pulls away. The women peer sorrowfully at Marvin through the window. Marvin gives the women an army salute. Exterior, Jindal's convenience store, night. Outside the store, Marvin takes the gun from his waistband, puts it in his coat pocket. Composing his nerves, he enters. Interior, Jindal's convenience store, night. Mr. Jindal observes Marvin coming into the store. Already suspicious of his intent, Mr. Jindal lifts a gun from the drawer behind the counter and holds it down by his side. Marvin walks to the edge of the aisle, pretending to shop for items. In the corner of the store, he pulls the ski cap down, masking his face. Mr. Jindal narrows his eyes and cocks his gun. With his head bowed, right hand stuffed inside his coat pocket, Marvin advances towards the counter. But suddenly, from behind, an inexplicable blur of violet-red light, the size of a golf ball, flashes down from the ceiling and strikes several cans off the shelf. The cans slam loudly on the floor, causing the surprised Marvin to spin around. Reacting to Marvin's sudden movement, Mr. Jindal draws his gun and aims it at the back of Marvin's head. Marvin is unaware of his exposed position. Unmasking, he clumsily tries to reshelf the cans. Mr. Jindal looks curiously to the area of the ceiling where the energy manifested. Nothing unnatural there. Marvin faces the counter, sees Mr. Jindal aiming the gun at his face. He's paralyzed with fear.
You got 5 seconds to get the fuck out of my store.
With wide, fearful eyes, Marvin looks down the barrel of the gun. He desperately hightails it out of the store.
Don't ever come back in my store.
Exterior, street, night. Marvin sprints 3 blocks down the sidewalk. The gun bounces out from his coat pocket, hits the sidewalk with a clank. Trying to make a swift halt, Marvin falls down and slams his knees into the concrete. Panting heavily, he limps back for the weapon, troubled by his near-death experience.
Fuck! He already knew what I was planning to do.
Marvin tucks the gun into the waistband of his pants underneath his shirt. He again hears, ripping through the air, that terrifying laughter and the reverberating revving of the sputtering truck, rapidly closing in on him from every direction. Marvin nervously scans his perimeter, but cannot locate the terrorizer. After several seconds of drama, the sputtering engine and laughter stop. Hearing less threatening laughter coming from the other side of the street, Marvin sees a couple entering a dance club. He urgently limps for the club. Suddenly, the ghost truck appears, speeding down the road straight for Marvin. Trapped in the middle of the road, Marvin dives spread eagle into the hood of a vehicle. Desperately holding on, he screams in terrible agony.
Ah! It's hot! It's hot!
Hideous laughter roars from within the truck. Even though his body mysteriously burns, Marvin continues to hold on for dear life. Looking through the busted-out frame of the windshield, Marvin sees three frightful, spine-chilling characters wearing black robes with hoodies shadowing their identities. Their eyes burn fiery red. The driver, a familiar figure, maniacally taunts.
Burn, 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 brother Marvin Taylor.
The truck carries Marvin on the hood for several yards before completely disappearing from underneath him. Marvin crashes to the ground, rolls over and over on the snow.
Ah! I'm on fire!
The laughter and sputtering sound of the engine is quiet. Lying on his back, painfully moaning, Marvin anxiously unbuttons his shirt, fills his hands with snow, and massages the snow all over his stinging flesh again and again. He stands up. Without limping, he hurries back to the club.
What the fuck was that?
Interior dance club, night. The music is loud. The floor is jammed with people grooving to KC and the Sunshine Band's Get Down Tonight. Anxiously maneuvering across the dance floor, Marvin hurries to the men's room. Interior, dance club, men's room, night. At the sink, Marvin swiftly removes his coat and shirt and drops his pants down to his ankles. The mirror reveals the redness of his inflamed upper body and terror distorting his eyes and face. Marvin massages water over his face, chest, stomach, arms, and legs. A man enters, stares curiously at the exposed Marvin. Marvin stares back at the man's image in the mirror. The man enters his stall and shuts the door. Putting his clothing back on, Marvin pep-talks his image in the mirror.
None of this madness is real, Marvin. They're stress-induced hallucinations. Your body ain't burning. No demons from hell are trying to take your soul.
Interior, dance club, night. Marvin re-enters the club, sits at the bar. His odor causes the annoyed couple beside him to move. With a distressed face and tensed posture, Marvin sits rubbing his hand up and down his stinging chest and stomach. Three men sitting at the corner of the bar intensely monitor Marvin. One of them is a professionally dressed man wearing a beige tailor-made suit and silky brown tie. It's his old friend, Sylvestus. He's flanked by two burly, clean-shaven bald men, bodyguards, wearing black suits and purple ties. Their eyes are locked on Marvin's jittery presence. The bartender comes up to Marvin with a contemptuous frown.
You ordering a drink?
Later.
From behind, Sylvestus taps Marvin on the shoulder.
Excuse me, brother, are you Marvin Taylor?
Marvin spins around on his stool, facing the man.
Why you want to know?
Marvin scrutinizes the man. Boxer's nose, wavy hair, and tall, muscular physique. Suddenly, Marvin realizes.
Sylvestus Smith?
The one and only.
Marvin springs up from his stool.
Wow, Sylvestus. It's been 14 years, man.
Marvin and Sylvestus hug.
Are you out of the Marines now?
They sit down at the bar.
Fuck yeah, I'm out of the Marines. Marvin, I committed 13 years of my life being a proud Marine and serving my country with honor and dignity. But when it came time for the Marines to show me their honor and promote me to first sergeant, the Marines bent me over, took its finger, and
Sylvester raises his middle finger.
promoted it straight up my ass 13 times.
They laugh.
Enough about my grievances. What I'm anxious to hear from you is if the rumors are true that you and Susan finally got married and she's pregnant with kid number 4.
Marvin drops his head.
Whoa. Fate had its cause for bringing us together tonight, huh? Marcus, 6 beers.
Sylvestus scrutinizes Marvin's unkempt appearance.
If you got problems, Marvin, my ears are wide open for an old friend.
I got so many creepy and sinister acts tormenting my life, Sylvestus. I don't even know how to communicate it.
The bartender sets beers on the bar.
Thanks, Marcus. Talk to me about everything.
I lost my job 2 months ago. Our water and gas is off. The bank is kicking us out of our home.
Taking a big swallow of beer, Marvin struggles to release.
I freaked out. Hit Susan, traumatized my kids, now they're gone.
You hit Susan? That's heavy.
Marvin bows his head. In a moment of silence, Sylvestus drinks a big gulp of beer.
How much do you need to keep your home and get your necessities turned back on?
Marvin sorrowfully breathes.
About 4,000.
Sylvestus is conflicted.
14 years is a long time, Marvin. I don't know how prudent it is for me to expose my personal affairs, but I can't bear to see you suffering like this. So, honoring our teenage buddy-buddy days, I had your back covered then, it's covered now.
What?
From the inside pocket of his coat, Sylvestus pulls out a thick folded wad of $100 bills. Sylvestus places the money on the bar near Marvin's hand. Marvin's eyes are transfixed on the money. Sylvestus, sipping his beer, is cunning.
I'm a businessman now, and besides, me being the proprietor of this club, I have more lucrative but challenging involvements.
Sylvestus holds Marvin by the wrist and slaps the wad of money into his hand.
If you're game for a challenge, I'm game to advancing you this 5 G's to calm your stress and clear your head to focus on how you're going to make things right for your family.
Chuckling uncomfortably, Marvin is suspicious. He lays the money on the bar.
Wow. $5,000 would help me out a lot. But from the tone of your voice, is your challenge legal?
Sylvestus signals the bodyguards. One of the men lifts the briefcase off the floor and approaches. He gives Sylvestus the briefcase and then walks back to his stool. Marvin is uncomfortable with the interaction between Sylvestus and the man. Sylvestus puts the case on the bar. He points to the wad of money.
My challenge is for you to help me heal your wounds.
Sylvestus pops open the case.
And the wounds of all the other wretched souls that have been betrayed and victimized by God and our ruthless society.
The case is stuffed with packets of powder and vials of crystals. Marvin sighs.
I appreciate your generosity, Sylvestus. But as bad as I need money, my conscience won't allow me to fuck up other people's lives. Especially more of us.
Marvin points to his face to draw attention to the color of his skin.
Way too many of us, Sylvestus, are being drugged out, dehumanized.
Sylvestus grimaces, insulted. He closes the case and takes a hard, prolonged drink.
And dumped like unwanted trash into the streets. Or in the animal cages they call jails and prisons.
Sylvestus slams the empty bottle on the bar. Marvin flinches.
Your sermon, Brother Marvin Taylor, sounds like you got me confused as being your enemy, and that I'm trying to corrupt you or something.
The bartender glares at Marvin. The bodyguards hop up from their stools. Sylvestus calms his demeanor and signals for the men to stand down. He puts the money back inside his coat pocket.
I'm not your adversary, Marvin. Your adversary is that same deceitful spirit again, bullying you to find your manhood and fight for the loved ones you're responsible for.
Sylvestus leans forward.
But since you're preaching, why don't you testify to me how the current edition of the story of your life is going down this time?
He puts his hands on Marvin's shoulders.
Is it going down with you standing on your feet and doing whatever it takes to be a savior and hero to your wife and children?
Marvin drops his head in agony. Sylvestus removes his hand from Marvin's shoulders.
Or is your story again concluding with you bitterly tormented by your cowardly failure after cowardly failure?
Rolling the bottle between his hands, Marvin considers Sylvestus' challenge.
I've been indulging myself in criminal activities. That's not my true self, Sylvestus. I ended up destroying my home, and 13 minutes ago, I was almost shot in the face.
Exterior, street, night. Marvin walks many blocks in the heavily falling snow with the briefcase in his hand, intensely pondering. Walking the sidewalk, Marvin's path becomes obstructed by several tents narrowing the width of the sidewalk. Marvin is grieved by the encampment of homeless black men and women on both sides of the street. He is approached by a man, mid-20s, draped in a thick blanket.
Hey, brother, can you help out a down-on-his-luck brother get something to eat?
The man looks weak in energy but strong in pride. He is clean-cut and sober.
I don't have any change.
I ain't had nothing to eat all day. I'm trying to get to the burger joint down there. Get a fat, juicy burger with some fries and a Coca-Cola.
Marvin looks to where the man is pointing. The neon sign flashes. Burger, fries, cold drinks. With a deep sigh, Marvin reaches his hand inside his coat pocket and pulls out a single folded bill.
If you promise me you won't use this for drugs, I'll let you keep the change.
Marvin gives the man the money. The man is surprised.
$100?
Composes himself.
I'm not a drug head. I'm just down on my luck right now. But I promise you, I ain't staying down.
I was down on my knees once, but never again. When you get up, stand strong and ambitious, my brother.
They shake hands.
For sure, I will.
Marvin walks away. Blanket Man watches Marvin from behind with an expression of respect and appreciation. Exterior, Taylor home, early a.m. Standing at the front door of his home, Marvin sees the sign posted on the door with a steel padlock guard box covering the doorknob. Locked out of his home, Marvin sits down on the front steps. He presses his body stiffly against the door. He places the briefcase by his side. Tears stream down Marvin's cheeks from beneath his tightly closed eyelids as he remembers the day he and his family purchased their home. Flashback, exterior, Taylor's home, day 1992. Marvin, 22, holds the 18-month-old Myesha in his arms as he stands next to a for sale sign with sold now attached to it. Susan, 22, flanks them, cuddling the 7-month-old Chris standing with 4-year-old Myesha. Marvin and Susan's parents proudly take pictures of the radiant family posing in front of their first home. Exterior, Taylor home, early evening, back to present. The first light of the early morning awakens Marvin from his grievous trance. The letter posted on the door above Marvin's head is now visible. Notification of foreclosure. Interior, Chamberlain's motel room, evening. Carrying the briefcase in one hand and a large shopping bag in the other, Marvin enters a room. Interior, Chamberlain's motel, laundry room, evening. His coat buttoned all the way down, Marvin washes his shirt, pants, and underwear. Interior, Chamberlain's motel, laundry room, later. Marvin now wears freshly washed clothes. He feeds more coins inside the coin slots to wash his overcoat. Interior, Chamberlain's motel room, evening. The sound of water running in the shower is heard through the closed bathroom door. Interior, Chamberlain's motel room, later. Marvin is now freshly shaven and bathed, not wearing his coat, gloves, or cap. Stretched out atop the bed, Marvin meditates with his eyes closed. The whole left side of his head, from forehead to eyebrow, is covered over with a wide band-aid. Marvin recalls the moral lecture of the elderly woman on the bus.
Young man, I don't know you or what your struggles are, but it's been put in my spirit to tell you, sometimes the misfortunes of life can be so demoralizing it disturbs your spirit with paranoid thoughts, and you find yourself wallowing around in filthy acts.
With a hard sigh, he anxiously sits up on the side of the bed, murmuring angrily.
I'm not punking out.
After a moment of rough breathing, Marvin reaches over to the nightstand. Lifting his gun off the writing pad, he writes a letter.
Susan, my dearest wife and queen, this immoral crime I am shamefully set to partake in tonight will shock your spirit and eliminate what little faith your heart might still hold for me. It will furthermore convince our children that their father is a lying and deceitful hypocrite for violating yet another of the proper conducts we encourage them to practice. But in being challenged again, Susan, and for the validation of my manhood, I gotta stay on my feet in battle.
Interior, Grandma's house, night. Susan's in labor. She holds her stomach and grimaces in pain. Her parents and the children anxiously support her as they help her out the door.
With all the strength and energy in my body to bring my family back home and sacrifice the fullness of my life, earning back your trust and forgiveness for the vicious act I committed against you and the innocence of my children.
Exterior, Grandma's house, night. Marvin now stands outside the door of Susan's parents' house.
This money I'm leaving you, and the welfare money I swallowed my pride and accepted, is enough for you to save our home and comfort our children.
Marvin pauses. He wipes his eyes.
I love you, Susan. Much more than I can ever prove to you again. Tell my children I love them.
Grandma's house is dark and quiet. Opening the briefcase, Marvin pulls out the envelope containing the letter and a red rose. He takes the money from his coat pocket, seals the letter and money inside the envelope. Kissing the rose, Marvin inserts the rose and envelope into the mail slot. Exterior, street corner, night. In ankle-deep snow, Marvin is posted on the outskirts of Michael B. Jones's park, tightly gripping the briefcase and nervously pacing back and forth. Interior, Michael B. Jones Park, night. In spite of the weather, a group of 7 boys play a spirited game of basketball under a canopied court. 2 young, physically imposing men sitting in the park near the court zone in on the troubled Marvin. A teenage boy stands courtside holding a basketball. He sports a dark warm-up suit and the initials SSAK stitched across the chest of his jacket. The teenage boy also monitors Marvin. Bouncing his ball, he dribbles over to Marvin.
Hey, cuz, you slanging?
Marvin is confused by the slang.
Am I what?
Come on, cuz. You posted up on the corner late at night in the shitty weather, gripping the case. What you nervous about? If you slanging, I got dollars.
The boy projects a very suspicious tone and attitude. He pulls crumpled up dollars from his pockets. Marvin is irritated.
How old are you?
Teenage boy extends the money out to Marvin.
Fuck my age, cuz. I got dollars.
I don't take dollars from kids.
With a contemptuous snarl, the boy waves his arm in the air as if sending a signal.
You're in the wrong hood to be trying to scatter your poison, cuz.
Chuckling weirdly, the boy bounces his ball back to the park. Marvin quizzically stares at the boy. The two imposing young men spring up from the bench and aggressively cross the street in Marvin's direction. Marvin is unnerved. Both men wear black combat boots and military camouflage uniforms with SSAK boldly stitched across their chest. One man has broad shoulders and the other has a long scar down the left side of his face. They position themselves on each side of Marvin.
The fuck is up with you, OG?
What the fuck is up with y'all rushing up on me like this?
You contaminated our hood with your drugs.
Scar slugs Marvin in the face.
Is what our fucking problem is.
Marvin crashes to the ground. The men kick and stomp him. Broad Shoulders exclaims,
Let it be known, the Southside ass kickers is fucking up all y'all thugs and punk ass drug dealers that's victimizing, zombifying, and killing off your own people.
Marvin curls in a tight fetal position around the briefcase.
I'm not a drug dealer. Let me tell y'all why I'm forced to do this.
The men pause.
What the fuck can you hypocritical ass tell us, huh? You out here clowning that you ain't down with infecting kids with your shit, but your conscience is at peace with you destabilizing our homes and hoods?
Scar slams a brutal kick into Marvin's back. Marvin suffers.
Ah!
Give up the fucking case, OG.
Blood flows from Marvin's face. He wildly springs up from the ground.
I told y'all I'm not a drug dealer.
With an opened arm, chest-high attack, Marvin charges his body into Scar and Broad Shoulder. All three men slam to the ground. Marvin quickly gets on top of Broad Shoulders and insanely pounds his fist in Broad Shoulders' face.
I'm saving my family. Y'all can't have this.
Scar wrestles Marvin off Broad Shoulders. Broad Shoulders is winded from the intense struggle.
Shit, this fool is crazy.
Broad Shoulders scrambles to help Scar with the tenacious Marvin. The three men battle on the ground. Teenage boy enters the scene. He picks up the loose briefcase.
I got the case.
Teenage boy runs off down the sidewalk with the drugs. Broad Shoulders and Scar pop up from the ground. They race in the same direction as teenage boy. Marvin hustles up. Pulling a gun out from his waistband, he gives chase.
Y'all bring that back, goddammit! That's not my stuff!
Exterior, intersection, night. After running and shouting futilely, Marvin gives up. With raging eyes and bulging veins, he points the gun into the sky and fires. Shot after shot after shot, Marvin screams at the top of his lungs.
Ah!
The gun is empty. Marvin continues to squeeze the trigger. Click, click, click.
What did I do to you to make you torment my life so much?
Marvin throws the gun into the sky.
I worshipped you. I believed in you.
Panting insanely, sweating profusely, Marvin sits on the sidewalk. The streetlights flash their programmed patterns of red, yellow, and green. Then, all the lights on each corner of the four-way street mysteriously stay green. The brightness of their glow is much more intense than normal. Marvin glows brightly green, but remains oblivious to the lights. With the sleeve of his coat, he wipes away the blood, sweat, and tears staining his face. With a sarcastic chuckle, he condemns the heavenly entities.
I pity the millions of righteous souls who have been hoodwinked into clinging to you for hope and salvation.
From the other side of the street, Marvin hears,
Marvin!
John's head and face is now covered by the hood of his robe. Marvin is spooked.
John?
Follow me, Marvin.
The previous green lights turn intense red. John covers his eyes and walks away. Marvin looks over his surroundings at the intense red glow of the lights. Seeing John disappear around a corner, Marvin cautiously follows.
Follow you to where, John?
Exterior, alley, night. At the corner, Marvin discovers a dark, dreary, garbage-infested alley. He shouts into the alley.
Where are you leading me, John?
John does not respond. Marvin enters the ghostly alley. After a short, spooky distance, Marvin exits the alley. He finds himself standing in an area saturated with thick fog and mysteriously devoid snow. The area pulsates with a darker, hotter, more nefarious energy. Marvin begins to pant in the intense heat. He wipes away thick sweat permeating the pores of his face.
It's hot. And where's the snow?
Marvin looks for John.
Where are you, John?
Over here, Marvin, come!
Marvin can barely see him. John disappears into the thick fog.
It's too hot on your side of town, John.
Exterior, narrow dirt road, night. Marvin continues to follow. He is led to a narrow dirt road running parallel with some railroad tracks. He hears faint, distressing echoes that grow louder and clearer as he goes down the road.
Stop! Y'all leave me alone! Get your hands off me! Help me, Marvin! Help me!
Recognizing the terrified screams of his sister the night of her violation, Marvin comes to a spot where a wide, 5-foot-high bush is rooted. It is the spot he last held Miriam's lifeless body. Marvin is overcome with grief. He wipes the moisture from his eyes and face. Sitting down by the bush, Marvin strokes its leaves.
I miss you so much, Miriam. I hope that over these 18 years, you have found it in your heart to forgive your coward brother.
Marvin holds a leaf between his fingers and bows his forehead to the leaf.
I need to feel your forgiveness, sis.
Marvin removes his overcoat and uses it to dry the hot, sticky sweat from his face. He slams the coat on the ground.
Any more revelations you want to torment me with, John?
Your time has come, Marvin.
John walks down the dirt road.
You and this "my time has come" madness ain't nothing but a bad nightmare I'm having.
But Marvin follows. Exterior, railroad crossing, night. He's led to the intersection where the dirt road and railroad meets track. John crosses over the tracks to the other side. As Marvin enters the middle of the tracks, he hears the harrowing echoes of men wailing in severe agony.
Help!
Somebody help us! We're on fire! Help us!
Marvin anxiously scans the area for the distressed. The cries of the wailing souls fade out. The railroad warning lights and bells are triggered. Seeing the guardrail arms lowering down, Marvin scrambles off the tracks to the other side. The flashing lights and clanging bells go silent. Marvin is bewildered. He moves forward. The lights and bells react again. Marvin faces the reverberating clangs of the bells and is captivated by the hypnotic flicker of the red lights. Frozen in a trance-like state, fixated on the flashing lights, Marvin recalls the shock, another disturbing encounter he was tragically connected to. Flashback. Exterior, narrow dirt road, night, 1988. It is a beautiful night. The full moon and star-studded sky provide a glorious romantic scene for the 17-year-old Marvin and the 17-year-old Susan, both dressed in their formal prom clothing. Marvin, styling in a black tuxedo, and Susan, wearing an ocean blue, floor-length satin gown with a princess crown honoring her perfectly groomed updo, walk down a dirt road lit by spaced-out streetlights. Marvin's arm circles Susan's waist. Her head rests gently on his shoulder. Their stroll leads them to the same intersection of dirt road and railroad tracks. The lights flash, the bells clang, the guardrail arms level down. Marvin bubbles with joy and amazement.
Is this night for real, Susan? Is this truly you in my arms?
Susan stops, puts her hands on Marvin's waist.
Maybe you should kiss me and find out.
Savoring the rapturous moment, Marvin brushes his hand softly over her cheek.
Wow.
They kiss. The full moon gradually turns violet red. A hard-charging train roars up the tracks, sounding its horn. Interior, truck, night. A speeding 1974 truck races up the dirt road. 3 men sit in the cab of the truck, the same 3 from the Miriam encounter. White boy sits on the passenger side. Chubby boy sits in the middle. Tall man, muscular and fearsome, is driving. They are having a merry time, passing around a 40-ounce bottle of hard liquor. The driver, gulping a big swallow, spots Marvin and Susan embracing in a kiss on the side of the road.
Well, looky here, looky here. It's choo-choo train time, boys.
Exterior, narrow dirt road, night. Marvin and Susan's romantic bonding is unceremoniously interrupted by the sounds of a racing engine, loud music, and drunken jeers roaring from behind them. Looking back, they see the headlights of a rapidly approaching truck. The train has closed to within 85 yards of the crossing. A sudden rapid burst of violet red light, similar in size to the configuration to the light striking down the cans at Jindal's convenience store, fires downward from the red moon. Interior, truck, night. The tall man, with mischievous intent, slows the truck as he closes in on Marvin and Susan. But while looking through the windshield at the couple, he's shocked to see the violet red streak of light piercing the hood of his truck.
What the fuck?
The accelerator pedal suddenly separates itself from the foot of the driver and sticks to the metal floor. At the rapid burst of speed, the three men are jerked violently backwards.
Oh, fuck! Accelerator's stuck.
The tall man drops the 40-ounce bottle and spills liquor all over himself. He anxiously stomps the pedal, no effect. The truck speeds towards the crossing. The chubby boy, seeing the train closing in on the intersection, panics.
We're gonna die! Hit the brakes! Hit the brakes!
The tall man stomps the brake pedal.
We ain't got no brakes!
Exterior, narrow dirt road, night. The runaway truck speeds past Marvin and Susan.
They're gonna crash.
The truck crashes through the guardrail arm. The train slams into the rear of the truck, causing it to flip over and explode into a fiery inferno. Screams of agony plead from the burning vehicle.
Help! Somebody help us! We're on fire! Help us!
Marvin and Susan are horrified. Marvin grabs Susan by the hand.
Come on.
They race to the burning wreckage. The door on the passenger side is kicked open. A man engulfed in flames staggers out, wildly slapping his hands over his body.
Get this fire off me! Help me! I'm burning!
Marvin takes off his coat to use it for protection. He drags the man away from the wreckage. Wrestling the man to the ground, Marvin smothers out the flame with his coat and summons Susan.
Stay with him, Susan. I'm getting the others.
Susan goes to the man's aid. Marvin rushes back to the truck. Before he can rescue the others, a towering wall of flames, configured like a gigantic palm, forcefully gushes out of the truck. Marvin is lifted 4 feet off the ground and thrown 12 feet backwards, landing on his backside.
You see that, Susan?
Susan is shocked, speechless. The moon returns to its natural glow and appears to be smiling in the heavens. Exterior, railroad crossing night, back to present. Wide-eyed and panting heavily, Marvin is brought back to reality by the horn of a train roaring past. He seems to have an epiphany about his connection to John. The train rumbles over the tracks behind Marvin. Marvin looks for John and sees him standing on the outskirts of a foggy, creepy wooded area with 2 hooded demons from the ghost truck. One is tall, the other is short and chubby. Marvin is now highly fearful.
I'm done following you, John. I'm going back to my side of town.
Marvin attempts to retreat, but constrained by some strange, unseen force, his body cannot go backwards.
I can't get out of this place.
The tall man roars with laughter and lets his hood down. With freakishly red eyes and a horrendously burnt and disfigured face, he is terrifying. The chubby boy pulls down his hood and is equally disfigured and disturbing. John also pulls his hood down. Without his sunglasses, his eyes are fiery red. The tall man taunts.
Be brave, Brother Taylor. Your home, sweet home, hellaciously craves your soul.
Insanely laughing, the tall man enters the woods. The chubby man and John follow. Laboring in the sweltering heat, Marvin pulls off his gloves and drops them on the ground.
It's getting hotter and hotter.
He takes off his shirt and uses it to blot the thick sweat burning his face, neck, and upper body. Dropping the shirt to the ground, Marvin is compelled to enter the woods. Interior, woods, night. The deeper Marvin pushes through the woods, the foggier it becomes. He's heinously bombarded with cascading echoes of Miriam's terrified screams, the wailing pleas of tormented souls, and menacing laughter. Marvin finds a way out of the woods, and the maddening noises immediately cease. Exterior, Old Grand Street Church, night. Despite his foggy vision, Marvin discovers an old ghostly church building. Most of the building's old white paint has peeled off. The sidings are rotting. The windows are all shuttered out of their frames. Marvin is agitated.
This ain't my home. It's the beginning of all my pain.
The moon again paints its surface with a violet red glow. As the color changes, it also expands diametrically, doubling its normal size. A pulsating streak of golden light explodes from the surface of the rotund moon. The light accelerates full throttle, streaking through the heavens with a sharp downward arc. The moon returns to its natural appearance. Interior, Old Grand Street Church, night. Marvin enters the dark building. The moon's scant light glimmering through the fog provides him with enough light to inspect the old cobwebby building and dusty benches left behind. Marvin steps into the pulpit. He moves to the marble statue of the crucified Christ mounted on the wall behind the podium. Sneering at the statue, Marvin blasphemes.
I was a 14-year-old boy. I was a terrified 14-year-old boy, begging you to save my sister. Instead of you saving her, you cursed my life.
A powerful explosion of energy from outside the building mystically beams an illuminating stream of golden light in through the shattered-out window frames. The building comes alive. Marvin hears soul-stirring shouts frolicking behind him.
Let God use your voice, young man.
Facing the jubilation, he sees ghostly images from his past, worshiping to the inspirational voice of his 14-year-old faithful self.
No matter how strong the force of your burdens may pressure, no matter how miserable your life might seem,
Marvin squeezes his eyes tightly shut as he seals his hands firmly over his ears to drown out the merriment. Exterior, Old Grand Street Church, night. Marvin exits the building, but his past message of hope preaches on.
it doesn't matter how lost in the valley of despair your soul is distressed. Jesus is the guiding light and comforting voice that will lift your soul from the gutters of hardship, heartaches, and misfortune. And he will heal your wounds in the ecstasy of his Father's supreme sanctuary.
The area glows from its holy anointing. Marvin moves towards the foggy woods. From inside the church, Marvin suddenly hears strange popping and crackling noises. Facing the building, he observes the marble statue glowing with royal blue color and breaking loose. Interior, Old Grand Street Church, night. Piece by piece, chips fall from the statue until the Holy Spirit is released. The Spirit floats down from the cross and lands at the threshold of the door. The dense fog swiftly dissipates and the entire area is transformed into a picture of divine clarity. Marvin, with enchanted eyes and shaky breathing, is overcome with wonderment. The Spirit's countenance is undecipherable, but extending his arms in an inviting gesture, the Spirit reaches out to Marvin.
Come unto me, Marvin. I will give peace to your soul.
With tears draining down his cheeks, Marvin moves for the welcoming arms of the holy entity, mumbling out his name.
Jesus? Jesus.
The tall man loudly distracts Marvin.
Don't let him play you for a bitch-ass fool, Marvin.
Hiding beside the left side of the building, the demon's arms are raised up to shield their faces from the sanctity of their surroundings.
How can he give peace to your soul when he's the same deceitful spirit that fucked your head up that night he didn't save Miriam?
Overcoming his momentary lapse into awe, Marvin returns to being defiant.
You're here now. But where's Miriam, Jesus? What happened to my 14-year-old sister?
Ascending into the heavens, the Spirit responds.
In time, you will understand.
The Holy Spirit fades into the night. The emboldened tall man loudly taunts.
Be gone, Jesus.
Marvin stares into the heavens. The tall man, blasting his sickening laughter, comes from Marvin.
Ain't no salvation for you now, brother Marvin Taylor. This is where your life ends and hell begins.
The tall man points to the graveyard behind the church building. Marvin is terrified as he stares at the burial site.
Before I go to my grave, I need to understand something. John, I know now you're the white boy I pulled from that burning truck. I tried to save all of y'all, but the truck exploded. How do y'all know about Miriam?
You want to know how we know Miriam?
The tall man roars with his demonic laughter.
Let the show begin.
The tall man's head freakishly rotates in a counterclockwise direction. He torments Marvin with the distressed voice of Miriam.
Y'all leave me alone. Get your hands off me. Help me, Marvin.
Miriam? Miriam!
The tall man rotates his head back into its natural position. His face is now replaced by Miriam's 14-year-old face.
Don't be a fucking coward this time, Marvin. Come and save me. Save me.
The juxtaposition of the tall man's hideous face with Miriam's adolescent face is disturbing. Marvin attacks.
Ah! I'm saving you this time, Miriam!
He launches his body into the tall man, but goes right through the ghostly demon. Marvin crashes onto the ground behind the demon, writhing and frantically patting his clothing.
He's hot, Miriam. He's hot!
With Miriam's face and voice, the tall man spins his head around and round.
Stop your fucking bitch-ass whining, Marvin. Fight like a maniac. Save me, Marvin. Save me. Save me!
Marvin pops off the ground and insanely charges, but as before, his body passes through and he sprawls feverishly on the ground, frantically pounding his clothing.
I can't save you, Miriam. He's too hot.
You think he's too hot, Marvin? Wait till your soul is suffocating in those fire and brimstone flames of hell.
The tall man changes back to his evil self.
We didn't go unpunished like you thought we did. You witnessed your god barbecuing us in that truck.
He snatches Marvin up off the ground and hoists him over his shoulder.
Now it's your turn to witness our god charbroil your coward ass in his pit of eternal pain.
The tall man howls with laughter. Marvin fiercely fights, kicking, twisting, and wildly swinging his arms and elbows.
Ah! I'm not ready to die. I need to make things right with my family. Let me go, God damn it!
Marvin breaks free of the tall man and slams to the ground. Scrambling on his hands and knees, he crawls away from the demon's reach. Marvin jumps up and races for the woods.
Hell is hot! Hell is hot! Hell is hot, brother Marvin Taylor! You didn't get Miriam, but your coward ass is burning! Burning! Burning!
Marvin frantically hacks and fights his way through the trees. His feet get entangled in thick stubble, causing him to stumble off balance and crash headfirst into a tree. Marvin lies face down on the ground, motionless. The tall man's laughter stops. All is quiet. The posted sign on the tree reads, Dead End Trail. Interior, hospital, intensive care room, day. Marvin's comatose body lies in a hospital bed, hooked up to an intravenous fluid bag and heart and blood pressure monitor. With clean-shaven face, Marvin's head is heavily wrapped in white gauze. An ice pack cools his forehead. A brace stabilizes his neck. The blood pressure monitor registers an alarmingly high pressure of 210 over 140. The jittery, irregular dot of the heartbeat monitor dances at a speed of 150 beats per minute. A warning light is triggered. As it rapidly flashes, the beep of the monitor sounds off. At bedside are Susan, cuddling their newborn son, and the older children.
Myesha, get a doctor. He's having a heart attack. Hurry!
Myesha runs into the hall.
We need a doctor. My daddy's having a heart attack. We need a doctor.
The dot flatlines. Marvin is dead. Marvin's spirit, a transparent replica of Marvin, separates from his body and drifts upwards, where two nebulous spirits await. Looking down from the ceiling, he witnesses Susan clutching their newborn son and his children crying in despair over his lifeless body.
Wake up, Marvin. Don't leave your family. We need you, sweetheart.
Marvin's woeful spirit reaches down to embrace and console his broken family. His spirit cries out as it dissolves through the ceiling with the nebulous energy.
I'm sorry, Susan.
Interior, dark tunnel. Floating through a dark tube-like tunnel, the spirits impregnate the light glowing at the tunnel's end. Exterior, paradise. From a powerful burst of energy, Marvin's spirit is reborn into a new and more sacred reality. Beneath the golden glow of the eternal sun, Marvin's spirit stands enthralled by his holy and breathtaking surroundings. Manicured green grass and colorful flowers glorify the landscape of this Garden of Eden. Rows of fruit and vegetable-bearing vines and trees are served by the powerful flows of life-giving waters from mighty waterfalls crowning this new world. Marvin's spirit witnesses animals of all kinds roaming harmoniously with multitude of men, women, and children of all nationalities robed in white.
Where am I?
A familiar voice greets him.
This is paradise, grandson.
Marvin anxiously pivots.
Grandpa?
There before him is Grandpa's spirit. They embrace.
I know I disappointed you, Grandpa. But you groomed me to trust in God's mercy and His righteousness. You taught me wrong, Grandpa.
From behind, a soft, angelic voice speaks.
God felt the pains and saw the tears of his faithful disciple that night. And he sent his angel to save me far more perfectly than you could have ever imagined.
Overcome with guilt, Marvin's spirit reluctantly faces Miriam's spirit, the very image of his 14-year-old sister.
The night I died, I saw you grieving over my body. I wish you could have witnessed God raising my spirit from the pains of a wicked world, comforting me to eternally rejoice with Grandpa and his many angels in his spiritual world with absolute peace and fulfillment.
She hugs Marvin.
I'm saved, Marvin. And even though you lost your faith in God, He never stopped watching over you.
What do you mean?
God sent his angel with the golden umbrella to exhort you back to his path of righteousness. He spoke to you through the woman on the bus with his words of hope and guidance. That night in Tyndall's convenience store, the cans falling on the floor, God saved you from being shot in the face.
Marvin's spirit is stunned and wide-eyed from Miriam's spirit's testimony.
All of that was God?
Grandson, In a spiritually uproarious, hypocritical world, marching to the commands of unscrupulous men, hardships and heartaches befall the just the same as they do the unjust. God is not willful that any of his children should suffer the excruciating miseries of hell's pain. The exhilarating joys and royalties of heaven await those who remain steadfast and committed to his righteousness.
Goodbye, Marvin. I love you. Be free and live peacefully.
I can go back?
For Miriam, it was her time and she was ready. You are not ready. There is still more for you to understand.
Grandpa's spirit embraces Marvin's spirit.
We're hopeful, grandson, that when you awaken from your journey of enlightenment, that anointed energy, once flaming passionately inside you, will again shine faithfully.
The two spirits hug Marvin and say their final goodbyes. Interior, hospital, intensive care room, day. Susan sits bedside with the baby in her arms. She weeps. Chris, his head pressed against the chest of his lifeless dad, mourns. Michelle and Myesha stand at the foot of the bed, deeply grieving. The baby's sleep is now disturbed, and he begins to cry.
Daddy is dead, Mama. He's gone and I'm never going to see him again.
Michelle goes to her mother. Susan consoles her and the baby. Chris shakes his dad.
Wake up, Daddy. Wake up.
Marvin's spirit, invisible to the family, floats down from the ceiling to his dead body in bed. 3 dark shadows suddenly emerge from the floor and transform the room into a dark, creepy glow. A whip-like stream of black energy lashes out from one of the shadows and snares the arm of Marvin's spirit.
Gotcha.
The shadow forms into the tall man, pulling Marvin's spirit out of his dead body. The other shadows are Chubby Boy and John.
Get off me! Get off me!
Marvin's body violently jerks in bed. Chris shouts.
Mama, Daddy's moving. He's trying to wake up. Mama!
Witnessing Marvin's twitching body, Susan gapes.
Myesha, get a doctor.
Myesha runs out of the room.
We need a doctor! We need a doctor!
Susan leans her head close to Marvin's face.
Sweetheart, you have been away from your family for 3 months, and for the first time you missed the birth of one of your children. Wake up and hold your newborn son.
She kisses his lips. The tall man overpowers Marvin's spirit.
You ain't holding your newborn son, sweetheart. Your cowardly ass is riding on the hellbound train. Choo-choo! Choo-choo!
Marvin's spirit desperately pleads for God's mercy.
God, our merciful, forgiving Father, have mercy on me for losing my faith in your righteousness. I have witnessed your glory, and now I understand. Please, God, deliver me from the pain of hell. I choose to live with my grandpa and Miriam in your heavenly paradise.
A bright golden light cascades down from the ceiling and sanctifies the room with powerful golden energy. The energy, unseen by Marvin's family, resolves into the Asian man, and now an angel robed in white. Instead of his umbrella, he holds a large sword. The tall man regards him with contempt.
Now ain't this about a bitch? 18 years later and with a big poof, your angel shows up.
The tall man grabs his crotch and taunts the Asian man/angel.
You want some of this, angel?
The Asian man lifts up his sword and fires it towards the demon. The sword blazes in a circular motion. The tall man dodges under the sword's rotation. He grabs the handle of the sword and rips it down from its flight. He cackles.
Is that all your weak asses got?
Electrical currents from the sword fire up the tall man's hand, arm, and over his body. Violently quivering, the tall man is being electrocuted. He slams the sword on the floor and vigorously fans his hands in the air. The Asian man holds out his hand. The sword returns unto his command. The tall man, blowing on his stinging hand, is enraged by the imprinted message seared into both palms. Left palm, vengeance. Right palm is mine.
You don't burn me! I burn you!
With greater ferocity, the Asian man again launches his sword. The sword spins vertically in a clockwise rotation and slams upright into the tall man. As the sword burns through him and high voltage currents consume him, the image of the cross of Christ is seared through the tall man. He drops to his knees, screaming and violently convulsing, and then he implodes. The room also explodes into a violet red glow. The tall man's scattered pieces dissolve away with no traces of blood. The sword returns to the Asian man. John and the chubby man cower against the side wall. Showing compassion, the Asian man points downward with the blade of his sword for them to retreat. John is woeful. He implores Marvin's spirit.
Remember me in your prayers, Marvin. My suffering is greater than I can endure.
The demons dissolve through the floor. Marvin's spirit, sitting up halfway inside his body on the bed, praises God.
To God be the glory.
The Asian man floats to the ceiling and dissolves away. The room gradually regains its normal lighting. The flatline monitor resumes its active beeping. Peaks climb to their strongest height. Myesha re-enters the room with a doctor and nurse. Marvin opens his eyes and sees his amazed family. At first diffuse, they gradually come into focus.
I'm back.
The joyful family embraces in a group hug. Exterior, Taylor home, backyard, evening. Super, 3 days later. It is a beautiful evening. The sky is clear. The setting sun casts a reddish-orange glow on the horizon. Marvin walks out the back door with his newborn son snuggled comfortably in his arms. He sits on their backyard swing set and gently glides back and forth in the swing, admiring the serene beauty of the sleeping sun and the glorious dawning of the day. Moments later, Susan walks up and sits on the swing next to Marvin.
Is he sleeping?
I think so.
With a deep emotional sigh and a look of relief, Susan twists her swing to face Marvin. She stretches out her hand. Marvin holds her hand.
We thought we had lost you, sweetheart. Our lives went from us having a nice family outing in the park to you hitting your head, going into a coma, and then suffering a heart attack. Wow.
I saw Grandpa and Miriam in paradise, baby. It's so beautiful and peaceful there. God opened my eyes, and I found my way.
The end.